Love and Light. This is Healthy Talk Show for Monday, April 29th, 2019. I'm Robert.
And I'm Marissa.
Healthy Talk Show streams live on Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. UTC over at healthytalkshow.com/live with podcast versions available soon after over at healthytalkshow.com/subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, healthytalkshow.com/YouTube.
And healthytalkshow.com/support if you'd like to help support the show financially using PayPal or Patreon. It's value for value. If we provide you value, please provide some back in whatever form you feel. And yes, feedback is valuable. Rate us in iTunes, email us, or call and leave us a voicemail, 509-878-3229. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Healthy Talk Show. Drop the W.
Across the board, at least for those two very popular social media sites. If you have Amazon Prime, you can give us free money through what's called Twitch Prime. Kind of a hard to explain. healthytalkshow.com/support explains it. You can go over there and there's a link to it and you have to subscribe to our channel. It's free. It gives us $2.50 a month for free. Help us out. We'll send you some lip balm.
Yeah.
Show notes for this episode with links of everything we talk about located over at healthytalkshow.com/18. Show housekeeping. We attended an event at our local university for science communicators because we are communicators of science. We're thankful they had us. We were allowed to pass out lip balm, promote the show a little bit, connect, talk to people. Yes. Everyone's on Twitter, so that's why we're on Twitter now.
Welcome to our new listeners. I know a lot of you subscribe to our audio podcast, so welcome.
Welcome. We're going to be more cognizant that more people are listening to the audio, or we're not going to talk about cool things visually.
Or we'll describe them.
Yeah.
Work better too.
Yeah, it was a cool event. Yeah, they had a panel with communicators of science, a bunch of young, hip communicators of science, podcasters, comedians. It was cool.
Yeah, very energetic
really cool
crowd.
Yeah, and the panelists were great, very funny and very, very quick and just worked the crowd really well.
Yeah.
You could tell they did this a lot. It was funny because I thought of our chat room when the comedians on the panel were talking about how they get instant feedback from the crowds because they're, performing in front of live crowds. And the podcasters on the panel said, "Oh, we don't really get instant feedback." I thought, yeah.
Yes.
With our expert chat room, we get instant feedback.
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much. We love it.
Yep.
Chat is valuable. But feedback is valuable, so.
Yes. And just closing out the event really quick. My only criticism, and I do have one, is that the conversation seemed to focus on communicating science to the layman. Isn't there a better term for that? Because it was all layman. How do we communicate science to the layman? How do we use comedy to communicate science to the layman? How do we do this for the layman? How is the layman going to understand this? Well, how do you dumb it down? If you dumb it down too much, how's the layman going to understand?
And with that, each scientist is only an expert in their area. So
they're a layman in every other area.
I'm a layman in physics, biology.
But then the panel brought up the flat earthers a lot, and then someone even shouted out, "There's a measles outbreak in LA, people!" And then someone insinuated that only real scientists know what good sources are. And it just showed a little bit of a lack of self-awareness amongst the crowd. But again, good people trying to do good things. They're just people, like I say, people like to stick to their milieus and then they start to get inbred. But again.
And also embrace and listen to criticism so you can help explain it. And
if
you
you're
guys
going to
can
comment
understand.
In a public forum about the flat earthers, you need to know what the flat earther argument is.
That's true.
I know what the flat earther argument is. I'm not saying it's correct, but I at least know what it is. So when they come at me, I can say, "Hey, wait a second.
Yeah, this is, actually, this is why that is."
Yeah. But no one wants to go into stuff like that. Ready to jump into the show?
I think so.
All right. The Verge, Facebook broke Canadian privacy law according to regulators. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada opened its investigation into Facebook's privacy practices following the Cambridge Analytica scandal last spring. Around 300,000 Facebook users across the globe downloaded This Is Your Digital Life app, which siphoned data to the political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica. That abuse of data privacy standards resulted in the disclosure of data belonging to around 87 million people and around 600,000 Canadians, according to the press release. According to the report, Facebook did not obtain meaningful consent from users to share their data with third-party apps. It did not conduct proper oversight over the apps with access to the platform, and it engaged in irresponsible behavior with consumer data. When prompted by authorities to submit to audits, Facebook refused despite already complying with U.S. data checkups. Facebook even breaks Canadian law. They just don't care. Where is it going to stop, Facebook?
Yeah.
Facebook. Too big to fine, according to Forbes. And we have a video from MSNBC. We'll cue it up right now.
In a report to investors yesterday, the social network revealed that they are setting aside billions of dollars in anticipation of those possible penalties.
The agency opened its investigation into Facebook after the Cambridge Analytica scandal broke last March. The report found 87 million users had their data scraped, eventually leading to Zuckerberg's first appearance before Congress, wearing a tie, publicly apologizing for the company's handling of
A lot of memes came out of that one. Right there.
Yeah.
A lot of memes.
I remember that.
the scandal. But despite all of this, just remember this thing, Facebook stock surged after posting
Well-
strong first
Look at that. Facebook's still making
Yeah.
money?
Wow.
quarter earnings, and that is something to remember. Well, Facebook has two issues. They've got a public relations issue. They don't have much of a stock price issue at the moment.
And the story is a $5 billion fine. They set aside $5 billion just in case they get charged by U.S. regulators.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't want to steal your thunder on that last article because that last article mentioned the European Union, how they also fined Facebook, but it was only in the thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So Facebook doesn't care.
Nope. But on this MSNBC report, will the fine hurt? Let's see what they say.
Do you think this is going to have a real impact, a real dent?
Oh, Stephanie, not only do I not think it's not going to have a dent, but I think the FTC has unwittingly been sort of co-opted into being a co-conspirator in Facebook. And effectively what you have is a fine that puts aside some of the uncertainty at a price tag that Facebook can shrug off. Let's talk about numbers here. Let's say it's $3 billion. It says $3 to $5 billion. That's about 2 weeks of revenue, about 7 weeks of cash flow. So if Facebook can say
They make a lot of money.
to the marketplace, we can continue to do this. We can continue to engage in this type of behavior, and it results in what is effectively a parking ticket. Then the government is no longer sort of a countervailing force to private influence and private corruption. It's now sort of been co-opted into a co-conspirator. So not only does this not deter things, this probably enables them.
I can't see how the government's a co-conspirator in that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, but if they could just shrug off a fine that you really can't regulate, how do you regulate them?
I know. And how do they make so much money again?
Yeah. Oh, on our data, you mean?
Oh.
Oh, it's crazy how they make so much money. What will hurt Facebook?
I feel when we're talking about FTC violations around privacy, we're not talking about consumer harm. We're talking about actions that might actually enable violence, that might spin up violence. And my advice to these regulatory agencies is they need to add a zero to these fines. A fine is meant to be a deterrent.
So what would adding a zero to $5 billion?
Yeah, 50 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the algebra is simple here. It's the probability of getting caught times the likely fine not being or being greater than the upside of the economics of ignoring these fines and continue to do that. And what we saw this morning is that Facebook has added $33 billion in market capitalization, or the value of Viacom and Fiat Chrysler combined, because they have said a fine is coming and it's only $3 to $5 billion.
Yeah.
So just as we need to add a zero to these fines, Alex.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
Is Facebook scared? Closing out this.
Yeah, I don't think they're scared at all. As a matter of fact, this morning yesterday they announced it, and again they buried it in other things. They announced their new chief legal counsel is a very talented lawyer who architected the legislation to kind of jam through the Patriot Act. So, and then Sheryl Sandberg said, this individual, Jennifer Hempstead, will help us fulfill our mission. And my question is, well, what exactly is Facebook's mission when they bring in the architect of an individual who helped get through laws that we found were unconstitutional and, quite frankly, cost us a lot of our moral authority as a nation? So there are some very frightening things here, including the fact that Facebook does not seem to be frightened at all.
Nope.
Not at all.
That's scary.
Yep. Going back to that Forbes article. Facebook too big to fine. Recode reported Bank of America agreed to pay $16.7 billion in a 2014 settlement with the Justice Department related to its activities leading up to the financial crisis. In 2013, J.P. Morgan agreed to a $13 billion settlement with the Justice Department tied to its sales of securities containing toxic mortgages. So, people get fined.
Yeah.
It happens.
But they paid a lot more.
Yeah, but they're also financial institutions. Facebook is just a company that sells your data.
Yeah.
And uses it irresponsibly.
And continues to violate your privacy.
Yep. The Verge. Google is changing how employees can report harassment and discrimination. Google faced a year of backlash from employees, culminating in 20,000 workers walking off the job in November. The workers demanded changes, and Google executives met some of those demands. CEO Sundar Pichai announced that month that the company would make arbitration optional for sexual harassment and sexual assault allegations, and it would change how employees can report harassment and discrimination. Employees can now report concerns on a dedicated website, and the company has released its internal annual misconduct report this year and expanded information on sexual harassment investigations. Google also publicly released its policy on harassment and other workplace issues. This 13-page document details what qualifies as harassment, discrimination, and how Google investigates those issues. Cool. I'd like to take us back to November 2018, just because I want to remind everybody what happened. It wasn't really reported that well. A lot of people don't know about the 20th. It was during the Me Too thing.
Yeah.
Me Too movement. 20,000 Google employees said, we've had enough. And let's hear about what happened.
Well, this morning, about 1,500 Google employees worldwide plan to walk out of work to protest the company's handling of sexual misconduct claims. The New York Times investigation last week showed how Google paid millions of dollars in exit packages to Andy Rubin and other male executives accused of misconduct. The Times says Rubin, who created the Android mobile software, was paid $90 million. Rubin's publicist said in a statement, quote, Mr. Rubin left Google on his own accord in 2014. He did not engage nor has ever been told of any misconduct at Google or anywhere else.
Interesting. I had to dig a little deeper to find RT's report on this, to find out what the allegations were. I knew what they were. I was just looking for them.
Allegedly, the Google big shot coerced another employee into intercourse at a hotel, an accusation Andy Rubin denies.
Specifically, I never coerced a woman to have sex in a hotel room. These false allegations are part of a smear campaign by my ex-wife.
Jeez.
And here's some more.
Google's big hitters reportedly knew of the allegations, but there was no big outing for Rubin, no public shaming, no Kavanaugh-scale investigation. What happened instead? A discreet resignation letter filed by the executive, a goodbye golden handshake of a staggering $90 million, and a pat on the back from the big boss.
I want to wish Andy all the best with what's next. With Android, he created something truly remarkable, with 1 billion+ happy users.
Yeah. And then allegations against Rubin, the irony.
And the irony is that it's Google, one of the champions of the Me Too movement, and supported it by actions like creating a whole project with this eye-catching heat map for the hashtag. And note that we did not edit this in any way, including the music.
Very dramatic.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Wow. So, at least they're trying to change.
Yeah.
But dang, their employees gave them a fight.
I would like to know the details and how that program's been working.
Yeah.
You know, of course, women are a minority in programming still, and they've been trying to change that culture. But
yep.
Of course, you don't want to create friction either. So
not in the workplace. Not when you're making money.
Yeah.
The place you're making money. In Gadget, San Francisco could be the first U.S. city to ban facial recognition tech. San Francisco Board of Supervisors met on Tuesday to vote on the Stop Secret Surveillance Ordinance, SSSO. The ordinance seeks to impose strict limits on what forms of biometric data can be collected by the city's various departments, how and when it is used, and establishes an oversight apparatus to ensure public transparency. These requirements closely resemble similar ordinances from other Bay Area counties like Oakland and Santa Clara, but the SSSO goes a step further and flat out banning the use of facial recognition technology by local government. Should it pass, muster with the Board of Supervisors, San Francisco will become the first city in the United States to ban this surveillance technology. The ordinance goes on to define surveillance technology as any any software, electronic device, system utilizing an electronic device or similar device used, designed, or primarily intended to collect, retain, process, or share audio, electronic, visual, locational, thermal, biometric, or similar information specifically associated with or capable of being associated with any individual or group. That includes cell tower spoofers like Stingrays, automated license plate readers, gunshot detection systems like ShotSpotter, mobile DNA capture systems, surveillance cameras, including body-worn cameras, X-ray vans, RFID scanners, and a multitude of hacking tools and software that allow illicit entry into secured computers and networks. Whew!
Jeez.
It's a lot of things that they are trying to ban. They're very specific about what they're going after.
And that surprised me, too, because I thought people really liked these body cams since... now there's a recording, at least from the police's perspectives. And
body cams, I feel protect. Talk to people, they protect both us and the police.
Yeah. So I'm surprised that they would also go after body cams.
That's oddly specific.
I'm not sure. There's just so many different factors.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just surprised they would have something so broad. So I guess we'll see what happens.
We'll see if it passes. Tech Radar. This super soft headband is designed to gently rewire your bad sleeping habits. And we have a clip.
TSG.
Dream 2.
Polysomnography. The
Sleep
only
clinic
accurate way to
reinvented.
analyze sleep. Until now. Thanks, guys. Introducing Dream. Want to see how we do it? Sensors. 5 on the front, 2 on the back, that work through your hair. They measure your brainwaves, heart rate, and movement. Everything you need to understand your sleep. Sent to your phone every morning. What about comfort? Made of foam and fabric, Dream is super soft, so you can sleep in any position. It fits all heads. It's flexible and very lightweight. Another tracker? No. There's sound, too. Headphones? Come on. Bone conduction.
Here we go.
So only you can hear audio features designed to help you fall asleep. For better sleep.
Pretty rad.
Night after night. Dream 2. Sleep Clinic. Reinvented.
Dream has 2 parts, the headband itself and its accompanying app, Dream Coach. The headband gathers biometric data as you sleep, tracking your brain activity, heart rate, and head movement. It's much more accurate than a smartwatch, more like a sleep lab, but without having to spend the night in a strange bed with electrodes taped to your face. This information is transmitted to Dream Coach, which also asks you a series of questions about your sleeping patterns during the day. After 7 nights, it combines the biometric data with your survey answers to create a detailed sleep report just for you with tailored recommendations. The Dream Band doesn't just track your vitals, it can also help you drift into sleep with gentle sound and use pink noise at specific intervals to improve dream sleep. The second iteration of the band is available for pre-order or order now for $450. There it is. What do you think?
That's a lot of money.
Well, it's going to help you sleep.
Yeah. I mean, in trials, they showed that this band was about 83% effective in being accurate for measuring brain activity. So you can track your REM sleeping patterns.
Mm-hmm.
But as with anything, I worry about privacy.
What about the sound? The
sound thing was also pretty interesting. It's an old technology. They were really pushing how they perfected it this time around.
What's the technology called? Do you remember?
It's
Is it bone
conduction hearing?
Conduction technology. Yeah, they have speakers, conduction speakers, or speakers that you have to hold up to walls and stuff to hear, where you hold them up to your head.
Yeah, it's the same concept, just transmitting the waves from.
It's pretty cool.
Physically, but they said a minor side effect of bone conduction could be headaches in some people. So, kind of makes sense.
Yep, sure does. New York Times, is sex by deception a form of rape? This article featured someone named Joyce Short, and she did a TEDx. So we're actually going to go over to the TEDx and show that.
A stranger named Donald Ward climbed in bed behind a young woman who'd fallen asleep in her boyfriend's dorm room at Purdue University. She thought that, that he was her boyfriend, and he engaged her in sex. He admitted that he had tricked her to the police, and they arrested him for rape. The jury acquitted him because in the state of Indiana, in the Midwestern United States, rape by fraud or impersonation is not a crime. In the state of Tennessee, it's a felony. In the state of Alabama, it's a misdemeanor. In the state of Delaware, it's not a crime. In the state of Idaho, if he pretends to be your husband, it's a crime, but not if he pretends to be your boyfriend.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then she has this concept that laws set morals. So I'm going to ask you, do laws set morals in the chat room? Do laws set morals? Let's hear what she has to say.
Today, we see slavery as morally shameful because laws shape our morality. And we need new laws on sexual assault that can change our morality the same way that anti-slavery laws did.
Chat room says no. People say they disagree. Yeah, I would disagree with her too.
Yeah.
But interesting. It's one of those
It's very,
thought-provoking. Consent versus assent.
So what's your definition of consent? If agreement pops into your mind, you're in good company. That's what most people think. But there are many different types of agreement that can take place in sex, but only consent has the weight to make sexual conduct legal. What distinguishes consent is that it's freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. In our social media world, I like to call that hashtag FGKIA for freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. Another type of agreement that often gets confused for consent is assent. And assent means agreement on the face of it. Larry Nassar, the doctor for the U.S. women's gymnastics team, pretended that he was medically treating his patients when he touched their private parts for his sexual pleasure. His patients can only assent because they weren't knowledgeable and informed.
Interesting. Legal trickery.
Yeah.
In sexual conduct, we have a name in legal language for tricking a person into thinking yes when their real interest is no. When you trick them about the action itself, it's called fraud in the factum. When you trick them about the actor, it's called fraud in the inducement. So Larry Nassar committed sexual assault by fraud in the factum, and Donald Ward at Purdue University committed sexual assault by fraud in the inducement.
I can see your point there.
Yeah, it's very logical. And then closing it out, acquiescence.
Another type of agreement that people confuse with consent is acquiescence. And acquiescence means agreement under duress. Harvey Weinstein was a very powerful producer. And the people who, and when he exposed himself and demanded sexual favors, the people who he preyed on, they were concerned about their careers, and they were in fear of what he could do to eliminate their career. When someone induces sex through fear, that person is not freely giving their agreement. Also, when somebody muddles your brains with drugs or alcohol, You don't have the clarity of mind in order to be able to freely give knowledgeable and informed agreement.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I lost her her conclusion. I lost the clip where she talks about how we have to write our senators and legislators and say that we need clear definitions to consent.
Yeah.
That's what she's pushing for, which I agree with, but I lost the clip. It happens.
It's a very tricky world to navigate for both parties because,
yes.
I mean, I also worry about men. You know, I don't want to be unfairly burdened. And sometimes in these cases, I feel like they are. But at the same time, we want to protect vulnerable populations of women. And
yeah, vulnerable populations.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Science Daily. Number of women who aren't physically active enough is high and growing. Researchers used data from 2006 to 2015, U.S. Agency Health for Healthcare Research and Quality's Medical Expenditure panel survey, a self-reported questionnaire of individual households across the nation. The results of this study are based on data from about 18,000 women with cardiovascular disease between the ages of 18 and 75, including non-Hispanic whites, 77.5%, Asians, 2.3%, African Americans, 12.2%, and Hispanics, 8%, who in some are nationally representative of U.S. women with cardiovascular disease. They compared answers collected in 2006 to 2007 against those collected 2014 to 2015 to assess any trends. In 2006, 58% of women with cardiovascular disease said they were not meeting the AHA recommended physical activity guidelines. By 2015, that number rose to 61%. Researchers found that women ages 40 to 64 were the fastest growing age group not getting enough physical activity, with 53% reporting in 2006, 2007 not getting enough exercise, and 60% in 2014, 2015. They also found that African American and Hispanic women were more likely not to exercise enough, and women from low-income households who were enrolled in public insurance and had less high school education were also more likely to not meet recommended physical targets. The researchers cautioned that this study was not designed to show cause and effect, but to identify 10-year trends in the levels of physical activity among U.S. women across various demographic groups defined by age, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic factors, and to describe associations of physical activity with health care costs. Lack of regular physical activity has been independently linked in scores of previous studies to a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and diabetes.
Yeah. I mean, overall, people just need to start moving more, small steps, taking the stairs.
Yep, we always say it, but we're always going to continue to say it. We were really cheap pedometers, ones that don't invade our privacy.
Yeah.
And we go for 10,000 steps a day. That's just our arbitrary goal. It's just a number we came up with, and it seems come up with a goal and just do it.
Yeah.
Hit it. Science Daily, antibiotic use linked to greater risk of heart attack and stroke in women. Duration and life stage of antibiotic use and risk of cardiovascular events in women, published in the European Heart Journal, found women aged 60 or older who took antibiotics for 2 months or more had the greatest risk of cardiovascular disease, but long duration of antibiotic use was also associated with an increased risk if taken during middle age 40 to 59. The researchers could find no increased risk from antibiotic use by younger adults aged between 20 to 39. The researchers studied over 36,000 women who took part in the Nurses' Health Study, which has been running in the USA since 1976. The current study looked at data from 2004 to June 2012. In 2004, the women were aged 60 or older, and they were asked about their use of antibiotics when they were young, 20 to 39, middle-aged, 40 to 59, or older, 60 and older. The researchers categorized them into 4 groups: those who have never taken antibiotics, those who had taken them from time periods of less than 15 days to 2 months, or for 2 months or longer. During an average follow-up period of nearly 8 years, during which the women continued to complete questionnaires every 2 years, 1,056 participants developed cardiovascular disease. After adjustments to take into account factors that could affect their results, such as age, race, sex, diet, and lifestyle, reasons for antibiotic use, overweight, obesity, or other diseases, and medication use, they found that women who use antibiotics for periods of 2 months or longer in late adulthood were 32% more likely to develop cardiovascular disease than women who did not use antibiotics. Women who took antibiotics for longer than 2 months in the middle age had a 28% increased risk compared to women who did not. These findings mean that among women who take antibiotics for 2 months or more in late adulthood, 6 women per 1,000 would develop a cardiovascular disease compared to 3 per 1,000 among women who had not taken antibiotics. Limitations include the fact that participants reported their use of antibiotics, and this could be misremembered. However, as they were all health professionals, they were able to provide more accurate information on the medication use. rather than the general population.
Well, this is kind of promising too, because this will encourage physicians to use less antibiotics. So we've kind of covered that on the show, how we tend to overuse antibiotics.
We're actually going to have something about that today.
Oh, perfect.
Not Science Daily. Despite healthy warnings, Americans still sit too much. Health warnings. Americans still sit too much. Trends in sedentary behavior among the U.S. population, 2001 to 2016, analyzed data from more than 51,000 people who participated in the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey between 2001 and 2016, looking at 4 age groups: children's ages 5 to 11 as reported by parent or guardian, adolescents ages 12 to 19, adults ages 20 to 64, and adults ages 65 and older. Race and ethnicity were defined as non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic black, Hispanic, and other races, including multiracial. Total daily sitting time increased among adolescents and adults from 2007 to 2016 from 7 hours per day to just over 8 for teenagers, and from 5.5 hours a day to almost 6.5 for adults, the researchers found. They've found most Americans spend at least 2 hours a day sitting or watching television or videos. Current ages 5 to 11, 62% spent at least that long in front of screens daily. Adolescents ages 12 to 19, that number was 59%. About 65% of adults ages 20 to 64 spend at least 2 hours watching television per day. From 2015 to 2016, 84% of adults over 65 spent at least that much time sitting and watching television, and this remained steady across the course of the study. Across all age groups, 28% to 38% of those surveyed spent at least 3 hours a day watching television or videos, and 13% to 23% spent 4 hours or more engaged in watching television. Males of all age groups, non-Hispanic, black individuals of all participants reported being obese or physically inactive were more likely. I don't know how that word got cut
We're
off.
more likely to spend more time sitting to watch television or videos compared to their counterparts.
Sorry about that. Computer screen time outside of work and school increased over this period. At least half of individuals across all age groups used a computer during leisure time for more than an hour per day in the 2 most recent years of the study, and up to a quarter of the U.S. population used computers outside of work and school for 3 hours or more. A lot of screen time.
Yeah, and this ties back into our cardiovascular study of women, that everyone's just being more sedentary in general. So
On their phones now.
Yeah.
Because you can't be active, man, on your phone.
Well, we need to start thinking about just changing our lifestyle, even just how we do work. All of us work all day behind computers. We go to school sitting all day, and then we come home, and in our leisure time, we sit.
Mm-hmm.
So more walking, park farther, every little bit counts.
And helps. New York Times, putting down your phone may help you live longer. By raising levels of stress-related hormone cortisol, our phone time may be threatening our long-term health. And we have a video from Tech Insider, why constant smartphone use is bad for your health.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. I'm a medical doctor. I'm BBC One's Doctor in the House, and I'm author of a new book called The 4-Pillar Plan. I think that stress is a huge problem these days, and one of the biggest sources are our smartphones. That's why I'm a big fan of something called a screen-free Sabbath, this whole concept that we may have one whole day a week, if possible, where we don't go on our screens. Now, I know many of you are probably thinking that's a little bit too scary, but the benefits can be absolutely profound. One recent UK study suggested that we look at our phone 221 times a day.
221 times a day.
I believe it.
I believe people do it more.
I know.
Even more alarming is a recent study from America which says that we actually touch our phones over 2,000 times a day. It's absolutely remarkable. But why does this matter?
Why does it matter?
The reason it matters is because it stops us from having any off time. We're constantly go, go, go. From the minute we wake up and we check Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook, our lives are go, go, go these days with work, the commute, emails, to-do lists, and this constant stream of information, or what I call information overload, continues until late into the evening, often whilst we're still in bed. And this is a big problem because stress raises levels of something called cortisol in our bodies. Cortisol is our body's principal stress response hormone. If we have raised levels of our stress response hormones, it affects our brain, our performance, our function. We get tired at work. It's not only work, it then impacts our home lives and our personal relationships in the evening. We have to use technology in a way that it helps us rather than controls us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that stress response is not good if you're getting that on your phone, from your phone.
I'm so guilty of this, though, sometimes. I've gotten better. I turned off the notifications.
Yes.
But
Here's the conclusion. Speaking of
A simple tip
notifications.
that I use both myself and with my patients is to think about, can we have 1 hour in the morning where we don't look at our phones? It could be quite remarkable. Or at least have your phone in airplane mode, because then you can go on an app, listen to some music, or do something like a meditation app without getting that constant stream of noise. Another simple tip to reduce how much you use your smartphone, but more importantly, how your smartphone might be adversely affecting you, is to switch off notifications on your phone. This
Turn off notifications.
Yeah.
What?
can be life-changing. Do you need to see every time someone likes that last Instagram comment?
No.
Do you
No.
need to know every time a new email pings in your inbox?
No.
Nope.
Simply taking off those notifications puts you in control, because then you can choose when you go on Instagram, when you go on Facebook, and when you choose to utilize social media. You can choose to access your emails, but you're not constantly bombarded by somebody else's agenda, because when somebody else likes your Instagram post, that could be 24 hours a day, it could be any time, and that's going to then impact you. You divert attention from what you're doing and you go and look at that post. Now look, I'm not criticizing, I am as guilty as anyone, but I do not have notifications on my phone anymore, and I tell you what, I would not go back.
I just had a really high thought.
What?
Okay, these notifications, the whole appeal to internet and Netflix and streaming, it's on-demand content. It's content when you want it.
Yeah.
The notifications are the opposite.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
So they're calling you. You're the content. They're saying, you get over here right
Yeah.
now. We need you. Instead of you saying, hey, I'm going to check what's going on with Instagram and see if I want to see anything.
Yeah.
Anything I demand that I want to see. Instead, it's, hey, come here and look at this. We want you to see this.
Precisely.
Oh, okay. I understand.
And that was, I like his word choice. That
What?
now I forgot his word.
You liked it so much you forgot it.
Yeah, no, sorry. That it was someone else's agenda, and that's
Yes,
exactly what
that's
you said
yeah,
too.
it's exactly what it's the
Yeah.
agenda of the developer of the service, the app developer, maybe Instagram, who's controlled by the advertisers to sell you stuff.
But do you remember how hard it was for me to turn off all notifications on
was-
all three of my
yeah,
Instagram
It
accounts?
was actually difficult to navigate and find it on the phone.
They do not make it easy.
It's not easy to turn off notifications.
And then Facebook now, what they do is they email you. Like,
Yes.
Geez, now I got to turn that off too.
Yep. Disney still emails me. They've been emailing me for years, and I
Just-
click unsubscribe from the Disney emails, and they still email me. I am documenting this all on video
That's
now.
crazy.
I'm documenting it.
Twitch stream it.
Yeah, I'm a Twitch stream. Going back to cortisol, these effects can be life-saving if you're actually in physical danger, like say you're being charged by a bull, according to the article. But our bodies also release cortisol in response to emotional stressors, where an increased heart rate isn't going to do much good, such as checking your phone to an angry email from your boss. That's exactly what we just said. And yeah, it takes me back to my time in the private sector. Getting a company phone, that was what you strove. I thought it was big time. Company phone, it was great. Now I warn people against it because they can
no.
always call you whenever. You can be summoned whenever you want. Do you really want your boss having that line on you?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And that goes back to our new culture that you always have to be busy and you always have to be on demand. But it's not healthy.
It's not healthy.
HealthyTalkShow.com/support.
Yes. Science Daily. People with happy spouses may live longer. Research suggests that having a happy spouse leads to a longer marriage, and now study results show that it's associated with a longer life too. Having a happy spouse is associated with lower risk of mortality, published in Psychological Science, a journal of the Association of Psychological Science. Notably, spouses' life satisfaction was even a better predictor of participants' mortality than participants' own life satisfaction. Participants who had a happy partner at the beginning of the study were less likely to pass away over the next 8 years compared with participants who had less happy partners. Olga Stavrova, a researcher at Tilburg University in the Netherlands, examined data from the nationally representative survey of about 4,400 couples in the United States who were over the age of 50. The survey collected data on the participants who had spouses or live-in partners. 99% of the sampled couples were heterosexual. At the end of the 8 years, about 16% of the participants had died. Those who died tended to be older, male, less educated, less wealthy, less physically active, and in poorer health than those who were still alive. Those who died also tended to report lower relationship satisfaction, lower life satisfaction, and having a partner who also reported lower life satisfaction. The spouses of participants who died were also more likely to pass away within the 8-year observation period than were spouses of participants who were still living. The findings suggest that the greater part The findings suggest that greater partner life satisfaction at the beginning of the study was associated with lower participant mortality risk. Specifically, the risk of mortality for participants with a happy spouse increased more slowly than mortality risk for participants with an unhappy spouse. Association between the partner life satisfaction and mortality risk held even after accounting for major socio-demographic variables, self-rated health and morbidity, and partner mortality. Cool.
Yeah. This reminds me of the Japanese people where they were living long too because they had their community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about just finding your people that you love.
Yes. Finding.
And enjoy your time with them.
Yes. Enjoy your time together.
Yes.
That's what it's about. Love and light. CBS New York, new electric shock treatment for ADHD.
Now, for the first time, a small battery-powered device offers a non-drug treatment. It's a small electrode patch connected to a battery-powered stimulator. It's worn on the forehead, usually overnight, and that triggers branches of the sensory trigeminal nerve. It seems that those low-level electrical impulses travel along the nerves, deep into the brain, where they're thought to interact with nearby brain structures that affect hyperactivity. The head of the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation says, while it's not clear how this affects hyperactivity, we do know that behavioral brain circuits are complex.
And by affecting those circuits, sometimes with electrical stimulation, as is the case with this device, we can therefore affect the illness itself.
Double-blind studies of the device in 62 children ages 7 to 12 found a 44% improvement in ADHD symptoms. It's not a cure, but it offers a non-drug aid for ADHD treatment.
I think that's the key, non-drug aid.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be kind of scary. Zapping brains.
Yeah.
It's bad. What's the word? It's bad imagery. It's bad.
That's true.
It just looks bad.
It just sounds like
lobotomizing
therapy or something.
It sounds like the next step's lobotomizing children.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. This actually might work, according to research.
Well, it's not as effective as psychotropics. So he said that it was 44% effective, but that should have been clarified to compared with psychotropics, so medication.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be some bias because the parents who were in this study, they want to get their children off of medication, so they're looking for any sort of alternative therapy.
Yeah.
And they do say that the side effects of this are basically none, at least as far as been shown.
We don't know long term.
Like they kind of mentioned, these electrical impulses of the brain are very complex. That's one of our great frontiers as a brain.
Yeah.
So, we'll just keep studying, and I think for anyone looking for a drug alternative, though, it may be promising.
Yeah. 11 Alive. World Health Organization says no screen time for babies.
Message is no screen time when it comes to babies. Now, it's a little different for kids under 5. They say 1 hour a day is their recommended guideline for that, but the caveat is less is better. And this is the first time we've actually heard from the World Health Organization when it comes to screen time recommendations for kids. And they didn't really get into the potential harm of too much screen time, but this was part of an overall guideline in terms of better sleep, more activity.
Very good. Comment from Twitter. It's pretty funny.
Now, critics say they didn't really account for the context and the content of screen time. So some people say that should be taken into account as much as quantity. But you can see some of the comments coming in. Terry talking about kids being glued to screens in restaurants and having zero human interaction. But other comments coming in says it depends on the child. This tweet says, my child isn't 3 yet, can already count, knows the alphabet. And actually they are using the iPad to teach the child to read.
They also used to use something called books to teach children how to read. Oh.
Well, I guess I was kind of surprised that they just came out with it now. The American Academy of Pediatrics, they have long recommended that children under 18 months should not have any screen time, and then toddlers should only have an hour.
Yeah, and BBC, no sedentary screen time for babies. Same thing. Details: be physically active several times a day, including at least 30 minutes tummy time laying on their front. No sedentary screen time. 14 to 7 hours sleep a day, including naps for newborns, reducing to 12 to 16 by 4 to 11 months. Should not be restrained for more than an hour at a time.
Well, I was just thinking of tummy time. Won't that end poorly for your smartphone? Because babies usually fall in tummy time.
Yeah, it's true.
Or are they going to be glued to the iPad during tummy time? I'm kind of confused.
Their head will be in the iPad. Yeah. And it could be a game where they just move their head around. Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
that's a good idea.
HealthyTalkShow.com/support.
And on the topic of babies.
And I click something. Pediatrics, sleep-related infant suffocation deaths attributable to soft bedding, overlay, and wedging. They did a cool video, so we're just going to let them talk about it.
Cool.
My name is Alexa Lambert, and I'll be presenting findings from our recent paper published in Pediatrics called Sleep-Related Infant Suffocation Deaths Attributable to Soft Bedding, Overlay, and Wedging. Unintentional suffocation is the leading cause of injury death among infants younger than 1 year in the United States. 82% of these deaths are attributed to accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, which result from hazards in the sleep environment and are preventable. CDC created the Sudden Unexpected Infant Death, or SUID, case registry and classification system to better understand the trends and characteristics associated with SUID, including suffocation. This study describes SUID cases that occurred from 2011 through 2014, classified as explained suffocation per CDC's SUID case registry classification system.
Cool. I have the mechanisms.
Each case was assigned one or more mechanisms to which the suffocation was attributed, including soft bedding, when an infant's airway is obstructed by soft or loose blankets, sheets, pillows, or stuffed toys; overlay, when a person rolls on top of or against an infant obstructing their airway; and wedging, when an infant's airway is obstructed as a result of being stuck or trapped between two objects. 14% of SUIDs in the case registry from 2011 through 2014 were classified as explained suffocation. 69% were attributed to soft bedding, 19% to overlay, and 12% to wedging.
Wow. That's
Public service announcement.
Yeah, here we go. Limitations and safety.
Our study had a few limitations. There may have been suffocation cases that lacked the high level of detailed evidence necessary to be categorized as explained suffocation using the classification system, which would have led to an underestimate of explained suffocation cases.
So that means there's more.
Yeah.
Okay. There's more cases.
Potentially.
Yep.
Also, we lacked the comparison group necessary to quantify SUID risk associated with infant sleep practices. The majority of explained suffocation deaths were attributed to soft bedding, and infants in all ages were vulnerable to hazards of unsafe sleep environments. Educating caregivers about safe sleep recommendations can prevent future deaths. These include placing the baby to sleep on his or her back for all sleep times, using a firm sleep surface such as a crib, keeping soft bedding out of the baby's sleep area, and having the baby in the parent's room, not the parent's bed.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah.
There you go. What'd you think?
Right. Yeah, good.
She's a great
Good
presenter.
PSA.
She spoke very well.
Chat thought she was a little.
Well, she's
little
probably
bit-
nervous and she's reading from a teleprompter.
Yeah, that's true. She's probably a scientist.
She's probably a scientist. You see a little ring light in her eyes. BBC. The Lego bricks designed for children with sight loss. Here we go.
Lego has developed Braille bricks. They're designed to help children with sight loss learn. The bricks' studs reflect letters in the Braille alphabet. Some 8% of people with sight loss in the UK use Braille. Lego's aim is to distribute bricks for free to selected institutions by 2020.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
Braille
super
bricks.
cool.
Legos are always cool. Here are the benefits. What?
Oh, I was going to say I was shocked by that statistic.
Yeah, 8% use Braille.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here are the benefits.
The benefits of the bricks is that if you make a mistake with the Lego bricks, you simply reassemble it That is super important. So if children are going to learn, they need to be prepared to take risks. Taking risk is about getting things wrong. And if you're afraid to get things wrong, then your learning is not going to accelerate.
Good philosophy.
Yep. Going back to the Braille thing, here's someone who uses Braille, and she's going to tell you about it.
I use Braille all the time. It's so much easier for me, and honestly, Braille's invaluable. Like when I'm revising for my A-levels, I like reading Braille textbooks as well, because sometimes it's just an easier way of taking it in to physically read it than to listen to my voice speech software read it for me.
Faster.
Yeah,
Braille's
that's really interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like you always say, Robert, I don't know how you watch and listen to so much stuff. I just want to read it.
Yeah.
Just give me the transcript. I'll read it. You could listen and watch whatever you want. I'll just read it.
Well, does the clip mention spelling?
No, it does not.
So that's another benefit is a lot of people that just listen to the voice to, or text to voice, that they don't know like what are separate words or how to spell things. So that's why it's really important to learn Braille.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then from the BBC documentary, Lego Bricks, Braille not in isolation. Here's somebody who's warning against teaching Braille in isolation.
Ryan Compton began to lose his sight aged 5. He says Braille should not be taught in isolation, as it is limited compared to new technology.
It's difficult as a skill. If you imagine you go into a building, you want to locate where the Braille is, you've got to know where it is in the first place. So that's where I struggle with it. It's all good organisations or departments or institutes having these things, but how relevant are they? Do the people in the organisations know how to use it, when to use it, and what to do in that situation?
Yep.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Nothing in isolation, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Moving on.
Yeah. I mean, it was super cool.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it was a really cool story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Legos
that's
are always
important that you can make mistakes, misspell, and practice your spelling.
You have to have that eraser.
Yeah. And I think it's good too because it opens it up for everyone to kind of feel comfortable learning, because there are different levels of blindness, and some people can start off with okay vision and they can read, and maybe they don't learn Braille initially, but then as their sight, gets progressively worse, maybe they would like to learn Braille since they can't read.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Hey, I would like to learn.
Yeah. We could. NPR. The affluent homeless. A sleeping pod, a hired desk, and a handful of clothes.
Stephen T. Johnson works in social media advertising, and he spends most of his days using things he does not own.
I took an Uber to Equinox to shower before we met, and then went to Podshare, and then came to WeWork.
Stephen took a ride share to get to the gym he uses. He does not own a car. At the gym, he rents a locker. He uses the gym's laundry service because he does not own a washing machine. He doesn't even have an apartment, actually.
Exactly.
We were going to meet at Podshare, this co-living space where Stephen rents a bed. Just a bed in a big open room with about a dozen other people, but it was too loud. So we went to his co-working space, a place called WeWork, where Stephen rents a desk. WeWork is also an NPR sponsor.
Native ad. That's convenient.
Yeah.
That's convenient, NPR. Dang, it's too noisy in here. We got to go to WeWork.
That's crazy.
Stephen owns so little.
That's what's great. When you don't own things, you don't have to keep track of them. You just show up.
Stephen owns so little, he can carry most of his stuff in his hands.
I actually gave up my backpack that was the smallest I got down to, and I gave that up 2 months ago.
Stephen also only owns 2 outfits. Well, 2 of the same outfit.
Under Armour brandless sport shoes, Lululemon pants, Lululemon socks, Lululemon shirt, Lululemon underwear.
Those are really expensive brands.
Yeah. Well, it's the affluent homeless.
Yeah.
More digital stuff.
The fact is that we can't afford to sort of hoard anymore.
That's Skylar Wang. He's a PhD student at UC Berkeley. He studies the sociology of the sharing economy. And he thinks one of the biggest factors in this economic shift is younger people buying fewer houses and choosing to live in dense urban areas and rent smaller places. Part of this is houses just being more expensive than they were for our parents. But when you're more okay with renting the place you live in, it's maybe a lot easier to accept a life where you rent and share a whole lot more. Wang does point out, even if young people own less, they still have a lot of stuff.
They do? Even if they own less, they have a lot of stuff?
Stuff that isn't tangible.
I talked to a lot of minimalists. They're the type of people who love to couch surf, right? They own like 30 things. But then the interesting thing is that they hoard digitally.
They hoard digitally.
They have tons of photographs. They have thousands and thousands of Instagram posts.
It's still an economy of stuff. It's just different stuff. It's experiences.
He even said a bunch of Instagram posts. So they're storing stuff that they don't even have control over?
I know, at least get a Flickr account or
Instagram's
something.
going to take down your freaking posts.
Yeah.
We had a Twitch streamer friend that we know that her Instagram got deleted just for no reason.
Yeah.
She's not doing anything bad. It just randomly got deleted one day.
Yeah, it was
She had to make a
really
new one.
weird.
Yeah. Very strange. How companies are adapting.
Even IKEA is starting to lease its furniture. The outdoor chain REI announced recently that it's vastly expanding its rental program for things like camping.
That's sad.
Yeah, it kind of depresses me. You can flip over to my screen too, because these pod shares, man, they are not cheap. So they're $40 a night, and this is for a bed out that you're sharing with a bunch of other people. And then this WeWork thing, I was looking at just prices in the LA area. I mean, for a desk that's not even yours, $350 a month.
Yeah.
That's
a shared desk.
Yeah, this plus the pod share space.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could afford an apartment, even in downtown LA. It comes pretty close.
Maybe, but they don't want it.
I don't get it.
And digging in on mine now, we got really curious about these WeWork spaces, so a reporter with Medium wrote a piece about WeWork location in Dallas, Texas, situated in a Class A office building. The first thing I noticed was how small the offices were. In the United States, the average employee needs between 60 to 100 square feet of office. The typical executive's office is around 150 square feet. The typical CEO is around 400 square feet. At WeWork, the individual office is just 36 square feet, a third of what typically is provided to an employee of a standalone office building. You need to step up to a 4-person office to get the same square footage you get in a normal office. Beyond the tight accommodations, what struck me next was just how jam-packed the space is. They don't waste an inch of floor space. The inclusion of glass on almost every wall helps you hide just how tight the quarters are. I've been to the Austin location, and while it is tight, the windows really do help let light filter through the space and make it seem less crowded. I've included floor plans below on the article if you want to go check it out. So if you're like me, you're wondering how much the small office, and there are very few left, is $700 a month in Dallas, Texas, and the 4-person office, these are going fast too, is $2,500 a month. I inquired about the 30-person office and was told it's $22,000 a month. For that rate, you get use of a printer, coffee, beer, internet, utilities, reception, and cleaning.
Woo! All I gotta say is that better be darn good coffee.
Oh, man.
That's outrageous.
If we had a time machine, you just buy land.
Did
just
I
buy
miss
space
something?
somewhere.
Why are these things so expensive, though? Jeez.
Because they can be. I really don't know. Starbucks, if it is, I'm so down.
You know,
from the chat.
I bet the people would bring.
It might be Starbucks. It might actually.
Oh no, I thought you were gonna say that the people would bring their Starbucks and there'd be free coffee.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that on cruise ships.
Oh man,
there's a Starbucks and free cruise coffee, and people are buying the coffee from Starbucks so you can get the free.
Maybe they'll put a Starbucks in the WeWork. In addition to, there
do
you
a profit
go.
share with Starbucks. That's a good idea. CNBC, tobacco company Philip Morris starts life insurance firm that offers discounts to smokers who quit. Philip Morris International, the tobacco company that sells Marlboro cigarettes, is getting into the life insurance business. Called Rivetti, the wholly owned subsidiary will initially sell life insurance in the UK with plans to expand into more markets overseas. Smokers will receive discounts if they stop, quit, or switch to a possibly less carcinogenic product like Philip Morris's vaping devices. On average, people who switch to e-cigarettes will receive a 2.5% discount on premiums. People who switch to Philip Morris's heated tobacco product IQOS for 3 months will receive only a 5% discount, and people who quit smoking for at least a year will receive 50% discount, the company said. Premiums for a 20-year-old non-smoker run about $6.47 US per month. For a life insurance policy that pays $194,000 US. The same premium would buy a $77,650 policy for a 40-year-old non-smoker. E-cigarettes are incredibly popular in the UK thanks in part to the country's public health agency embracing the products as a less harmful alternative and encouraging people to switch. Offering people bigger life insurance discounts for switching to IQOS may push people to try it. And if you're like us, we were wondering, what the hell is IQOS? Here we go. CBS this morning. About a year ago, 24th of January 2018, is IQOS a smoke-free cigarette alternative, and is it safe?
On a hip street in Toronto, Philip Morris is building what it says is the future of tobacco.
Hi, I'm Tony.
This is an IQOS boutique, one of many now open in about 30 countries, where Philip Morris promises to quit traditional cigarettes and sell IQOS instead.
It totally looks like a spa, like you're not even in a tobacco shop.
Philip Morris International and its U.S. partner Altria did not accept our request for an interview or a demonstration of IQOS.
It took me a little bit of time to switch over, but after now, I hate cigarettes.
So we came here to Toronto to experience the sales process ourselves.
Wait. That poor employee, she gonna lose her job because they refused to comment.
Yeah.
And they just go and say, we're gonna bring a camera in here.
I know.
Did they have, hopefully she got approval from somebody higher up.
Poor girl.
Over the sound of a noisy espresso machine, we heard IQOS pitched as a cleaner alternative to traditional cigarettes.
Sure.
So what's in this is literally just tobacco and nicotine?
In a statement to CBS
Literally.
this morning, Philip Morris International said, our goal is to convert every adult smoker who would otherwise keep smoking to smoke-free products such as IQOS. We are also clear that IQOS is not risk-free. What Philip Morris does argue in its FDA application is that if smokers converted to IQOS, it would significantly reduce harm and the risk of tobacco-related disease. The American Cancer Society cautions most of the research on IQOS has been funded by Philip Morris. A recent independent study concluded that the physical effects of IQOS on users are not yet known.
Yeah.
There you go.
We do not have long-term studies.
Yeah, so good luck.
Also, I like how it's a big promotional for their product as well.
Yeah, for IQOS, I know.
Wow.
Science Daily. Microbial contaminants found in popular e-cigarettes. The study, which examined 75 popular e-cigarette products, cartridges, single-use, and e-liquids, refillable material, found that 27% contained traces of endotoxin, a microbial agent found in gram-negative bacteria, and that 81% contained traces of glucan, which is found in the cell walls of most fungi. Exposure to these microbial toxins has been associated with countless health problems in humans, including asthma, reduced lung function, and inflammation. The study was published online in Environmental Health Perspectives on April 24, 2019. The researchers noted that the contamination of the products could have occurred at any point during the production of the ingredients or of the finished e-cigarette product. They hypothesized that cotton wicks used in e-cigarette cartridges may be one potential source of contamination, as both endotoxin and glucan are known contaminants of cotton fibers.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of worrisome because some of these concentrations that they reported in this study, at least of the juice concentration, were pretty high. And in comparing them to other studies where they talked about these glucans, they were present in almost 5 orders of magnitude lower. But at the same time, they didn't measure how much was actually getting into the lungs. And different glycans may be more or less harmful because, again, they come from a variety of sources, like you mentioned. Could be fungi, bacteria, or just plant matter. So
I really wish we knew some research as you research this stuff.
yeah. But we'll keep an eye on it because they keep finding new things about these e-cigs and how they're not really well regulated.
And from the chat, you think they would pay microbiologists to not make bad product? Yes. Mashable. Is this weed breathalyzer for real? Don't hold your breath. Hound Labs, a Bay Area company, announced Wednesday it had completed a successful clinical trial for its world's first marijuana breathalyzer. The company says it will move forward with making a commercial product with a roughly $5,000 price tag, primarily aimed at police and construction companies. Hound Labs claims a trial shows THC can be detected in breath in the truly minuscule amount of a trillionth of a gram per liter for 2 to 3 hours after inhaling. The study has not yet been peer-reviewed or published. It asked 20 people, a small number for a clinical trial, to bring their own weed. Kara Lynch, the UCSF doctor responsible for the study, says financial restrictions prevented her from using more participants or a control group, but they were not necessary. Mashable was shown a non-working prototype of the hound and several larger versions of the prototypes that supposedly proved the technology needed to detect that tiny amount of THC is getting smaller, but Hound Labs is not letting journalists or indeed anyone outside of the 20 people UCSF pulled off the street to test the device at the moment. In 2016, an early version was apparently tested on volunteer drivers in California. No high people were found. I don't know if they've found the solution yet.
Yeah. I mean, you'll notice this becomes a theme in this other study that we talk about, but basically they don't have any way to correlate levels of THC to levels of impairment.
Yes.
At least not that they've found yet. People are racing.
They're trying.
Yeah,
the first one
that'd be big money.
The first one, file those patents. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Let's get it going.
Didn't they also say, that they hadn't even tested this, so they were just rushing it?
Yep. They're just trying to get the first to market. Hound Labs, that might be a good name.
But
logo looks cool.
Really nothing that's been proven.
No proof. National Geographic. Cannabis 101.
Cannabis. It's the most frequently used illicit substance in the United States, and arguably one of the most controversial. Cannabis, or marijuana, is a drug derived from certain strains of the plant Cannabis sativa. The plant's flowers and leaves contain
That looks so cool.
Yeah.
That looks cool. Everyone, if you're not watching the video, you need to go watch the video version of this show. I'll put it on YouTube. I'll isolate a part. You'll find it. It'll say Cannabis 101 in the title on YouTube. Look at that.
chemical compounds called cannabinoids, which produce cannabis's mind-altering effects.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Cannabis 101, THC.
This high is largely caused by the cannabinoid called tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. When THC from cannabis is ingested or inhaled, it overwhelms the body's natural levels of THC in the cardiovascular and central nervous systems. In the brain, THC attaches to neurons that send information via chemicals known as neurotransmitters. The THC decreases the amount of neurotransmitters the neurons produce, thereby decreasing the amount of information transmitted. This results in psychoactive effects such as lack of coordination, memory loss, hallucinations, and increased appetite.
Yeah. And there's a brief legal history, I think.
Because of some of these psychoactive effects, cannabis had been used for medicinal purposes for thousands of years. Then around the 20th century, cannabis became more accessible and more widely used for recreational purposes.
Those are my kind of people.
Yeah.
But by the late 1960s, the use and possession of cannabis became illegal in many countries due to debates surrounding the drug's effects. Opponents state that the dangers of cannabis include inducing heart attacks, decreasing sperm count, and stunting brain development, particularly in teenagers. Proponents, especially of medicinal marijuana, cite benefits including treating seizures, relieving chronic pain, and preventing nausea-induced.
Studying brain development in teenagers, possibly.
Also, didn't we report that some studies said that people who enjoyed cannabis had higher sperm counts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have reported that. But,
conflicting research.
It's okay. More on that later.
Yeah.
By chemotherapy.
Oh, that was the end of the clip. My bad. Well, there you go. A little history on cannabis. If you like video work, I encourage you to go check it out. It's Cannabis 101, National Geographic. Very fine video work there. Forbes. Cannabis operators to create national brands through M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Companies like MedMen, Cresco Labs Incorporated, and Acreage Holdings have been among the main buyers in the U.S. and are creating national footprints. In Canada, where cannabis is federally legal, Canopy Growth Corporation and Aurora Cannabis have been acquiring companies and have nationwide reach. MedMen acquired PharmaCann, a dispensary chain, for $682 million in equity in December 2018, one of the 9 deals made by MedMen since the beginning of 2018. Acreage bought cannabis edible manufacturer Gesundheit Foods for $160 million in December, and cultivation and processing processing company Nature's Way Nursery of Miami for $67 million in January. The cannabis market in Canada is expected to reach $5.9 billion in sales by 2022 and almost $17 billion in the U.S. that year, according to a report by BDS Analytics. All 4 experts cited in the article expect U.S. federal legalization to happen in the next several years. Already Congress is considering a bill, which is called Secure and Fair Enforcement Act, which would allow banks to work with cannabis companies.
Nice.
Because right now that's a big hurdle.
Yeah.
Banks can't work with cannabis companies. It makes things very difficult. Everything's in cash.
Yeah.
The dispensaries, everything's really dangerous.
Hey, it's growing. It can't be ignored. If anyone wants to hire a PhD chemist in cannabis,
ask healthytalkshow.com. Science Daily. 1 in 7 Washington state drivers with children in the car recently used marijuana. According to a roadside survey conducted in Washington state, use of alcohol and cannabis among adults driving children in Washington state, published in the latest issue of the Journal of Studies in Alcohol and Drugs, found that 14.1% of drivers with children in the car, nearly 1 in 7 tested positive for THC, but so did 17.7% of drivers without a child in the car. Not statistically a significant difference. Because detecting THC in blood or saliva does not correspond to impairment, as does the positive alcohol test, it's unclear these drivers were actively impaired by THC. The group, which was led by Eduardo Romano, PhD of the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, analyzed data from the roadside survey of more than 2,000 drivers aged 21 and older conducted in Washington state in 2014 and 2015 after the legalization of recreational marijuana sales there. During both daytime and nighttime hours, researchers asked drivers at stoplights and stop signs if they wanted to do a voluntary study. They obtained breath samples as well as blood saliva samples from volunteers and noted if children were present in the car and surveyed drivers about their attitudes regarding substance use.
Yeah. On one hand, again, there's no good way to quantify or correlate. So what does it really mean? It doesn't mean that even if there was marijuana detected, that they were driving impaired.
Exactly. Because it stays in the system so long and it's...
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I was saving this statistic from the last report, but they said in 2013, an analysis of 66 studies showed that there was a slightly elevated risk of traffic-related injuries, but it was lower than the elevated risk from taking penicillin or antidepressants and antihistamines. What? And most people do take those types of medications, so...
TMZ. Coachella 2019 leads to herpes outbreak.
So herpes at Coachella. We spoke to the people over at Herp Alert, which is a treatment and diagnosis website for the STD, and they said that they saw a massive spike in herpes during Coachella weekend 1.
I like the person behind her. The facial expression. She's, oh, this is disgusting.
And weekend 2. Normally they see 12 cases a day in Southern California, but this time for the first 2 days of Coachella, it went up to 250.
Oh my God.
Than the spike they saw of 60 cases after an Oscars weekend.
Man. And thank you, TMZ, for not making your video easy to edit. I'd edit out so much crap out of that dumb video.
Yeah, this sounds worse than the measles.
Yeah.
Also, use a condom. Use a condom. HealthyDocShow.com/support.
Use a condom.
So important.
Science Daily. Gonorrhea cases on the rise across Europe. Following a decline in notification rates in 2016, the number of gonorrhea cases has gone up by 17% across the reporting EU and EEA countries, with more than 89,000 confirmed diagnoses in 2017, more than 240 cases a day. The 2017 increase follows the overall trend over the last decade, during which 20 of the 28 EU EEA countries consistently registered an increase in the number of notified gonorrhea cases. Men who have sex with men, MSM, accounted for almost half of the gonorrhea cases, 47% in 2017. The rise in notified cases among women between 2016 and 2017, from 9.5 to 11 per 100,000 population, is concerning, as untreated gonorrhea can lead to pelvic inflammatory disease or cause infertility. Rates of reported gonorrhea infection vary considerably across Europe, from below 1 to 75 cases per 100,000 population, with higher rates in Northern Europe. While this variation could be linked to real differences in incident and gynecological infection, they are likely influenced by different testing policies and methods, healthcare systems, and access to services, as well as reporting and surveillance system structures. With 558,155 confirmed cases between 2008 and 2017, gonorrhea is the second most notified sexually transmitted infection in the EU/EEA after chlamydia. More than 3.8 million reported cases during the same period. Holy crap.
Yeah. Also note that stat. I'll say it again. Men who have sex with men That was 47%. So guys, even though you can't get pregnant, you got to protect yourself.
Yes.
Very important.
Men who have MSM.
Why don't they just call them gay men? I don't understand. Or homosexual men.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't get it.
We have these. It's a lot easier. MSM just.
I know that confuses.
I know it really confuses me. Well, plus one. Food allergy knowledge, attitudes, and their determinants among restaurant staff. A cross-sectional study. Methods: we collected data face-to-face from 295 staff members in restaurants in Düsseldorf, Germany. Knowledge was assessed by asking participants to name 3 common food allergens and answer 5 true-false statements. 7 items assessed attitudes. A total of 16 potential determinants were examined using logical regression models with backward selection. Only 30% of the respondents correctly named 3 food allergies, and 41% attained a perfect score on the true-false statements. The vast majority expressed positive attitudes toward the need for cooperation and shared responsibilities for food allergic customers. However, they expressed attitudes towards serving customers with food allergies and the validity of customer-reported food allergies were unfavorable. Determinants of food allergy knowledge, the type of restaurant, professional roles, or levels of school education, and unfavorable attitudes, e.g. gender, were identified.
Yeah.
And I brought this up for you because eating out is kind of a pain for you because you're celiac. That means you cannot have gluten.
Yes.
If you have gluten, you get really, really sick. And it's just, you have to know, you have to ask the ingredients specifically, which is the hardest part because people don't want to give you ingredients.
I know. And I wish people could just list out the ingredients openly. I will say Soup Plantation does a really good job for the most part of listing allergies, but a lot of people are allergic, and it's just be nice to advertise more, especially we have friends with avocado allergy, fish allergies.
Well, I remember when we went to Clatch Coffee in Rancho Cucamonga because that used to be my spot. And I used to always get the patio special, and it lists a few ingredients and it says our secret ingredient. I want to know what that secret. When you tried to order it and you were saying, no, I'm celiac, I'll get sick if I eat gluten. Can you please tell me the ingredients?
And she kept telling me it's gluten-free.
It's gluten-free. It's gluten-free. What are the ingredients? No, what's the secret ingredient? She said, well, Oreos are gluten-free, aren't they? No, they're not. But thank you for telling me what the secret ingredient is. It's Oreos. So Clatch Coffee, I know your secret ingredients, Oreos.
Oh, there's another time. I remember when I went to this Thai restaurant and I got super sick, even though they told me I got the gluten-free pad Thai or something. Yeah. So, but luckily, I think since a lot of people do have allergies, people are at least slowly becoming more aware. So.
Yep. Science Daily again. Elderberry compounds could help minimize flu symptoms, study suggests. Anti-influenza activity of elderberry by a group of chemical and biomolecular engineering researchers from the University of Sydney's Faculty of Engineering and IT has determined exactly how a popular ancient remedy, the elderberry fruit, can help fight against influenza. The researchers used commercially farmed elderberries, which were turned into juice serum and applied to cells before, during, and after they had been infected with the influenza virus. The phytochemicals from the elderberry juice were shown to be effective at stopping the virus-infecting cells. However, to the surprise of the researchers, they were even more effective at inhibiting viral propagation at later stages of the influenza cycle when the cells have already been infected with the virus. The team also found that elderberry's antiviral activity can be attributed to its anthocyanidin compounds, phytonutrients responsible for giving the fruit's vivid purple coloring. The black elderberry is a small antioxidant-rich fruit common in Europe and North America and is still commonly consumed in jam or wine. For medical benefits, elderberry extract is available commercially in tablet or serum form.
I don't think I've ever had elderberry.
I don't think so either.
But I always like when these old wives' tales are kind of proven true by scientific studies.
Yep. An elderberry. Finding my tab. I just lost it. Science Daily. Doctors turning to antibiotic alternatives to treat acne. Physicians are scaling back on prescribing antibiotics for long-term acne treatment in favor of combinations with therapies, according to Reuters researchers. The findings published as Part 1 and Part 2 in the Journal of Dermatological Clinics surveyed studies on acute and long-term acne treatments over the past decade to identify trends. Prolonged use of antibiotics can affect the microbiome, the trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that inhabit our bodies in areas other than the skin, resulting in disease. The report noted that people who use topical and oral antibiotics were 3 times as likely to show an increase of bacteria in the back of their throat and tonsils compared with non-users. Long-term use of antibiotics in acne treatment is also associated with an increase in upper respiratory infections and skin bacteria, and was shown to affect the user's blood sugar level. However, doctors are increasingly exploring combinations of therapies instead of antibiotics for long-term treatment. There is renewed interest in the antibacterial medication like benzoyl peroxide, which kills acne-causing bacteria, helps the skin shed more effectively, reduces clogged pores, and does not promote resistant acne-inducing skin bacteria strains. Since hormone imbalance can trigger acne, doctors are looking into hormonal therapies which target androgens and the development of acne and have been shown to be effective, safe, and require little continual monitoring. The researchers note antibiotics remain highly effective for moderate to severe cases of inflammatory acne and are approved by the FDA as a supplement to other treatments such as benzoyl peroxide or other topical retinoid.
I mean, this reiterates the trend of trying to use less antibiotics, so that's good.
Yep.
And yeah, that's true that antibiotics, they can destroy your natural gut bacteria and also could upset the natural flora of like the female system. So,
New York Times. Wait.
Oh,
hold on. Sorry. Why did I lose that?
You need to put your Trump trigger warning.
That's true. But wait. Addressing a conference of health professionals and addiction specialists in Atlanta, Mr. Trump promised to provide more funding for treatment, stronger scrutiny of what he called big pharma, and tougher enforcement of drugs at the Mexican border. And here's my trigger warning.
We will never stop until our job is done. And then maybe we'll have to find something new. And I hope that's going to be soon, but we will succeed. We will end this terrible menace. We will smash the grip of addiction. We will make our cities safe, our communities strong, and our future brighter than ever before. As one united nations, we will work, we will pray, and we will fight for the day when every family across our land can live in a drug-free America.
Okay. Hopefully everyone's triggered and very upset now.
Yeah. I'm of course triggered by drug-free, but that's just me.
Yeah. What's a drug?
Yeah. I hope he has success though, because this is a really bad crisis that we're facing.
It sure is. Speaking of the crisis, pharmaceutical executive ABC News to face criminal charges in landmark case.
Tonight, a former CEO and his company, a major drug distribution company, face federal criminal charges for their alleged role in the deadly U.S. opioid crisis.
Any remorse, sir?
Led in handcuffs today after turning himself in, federal drug agents charged former CEO Lawrence Dowd and Rochester Drug Cooperative with conspiracy. Prosecutors say they ignored red flags and provided narcotics to pharmacies which were filling prescriptions of oxycodone, fentanyl, and other controlled substances to people who did not need them.
It shipped tens of millions of highly addictive oxycodone pills and fentanyl products to pharmacies that it knew were illegally dispensing narcotics.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Continuing on.
According to the National Safety Council, opioids kill more people in America than car accidents.
Why did they do it? The answer is greed.
And David Dowd faces 2 counts of conspiracy. If convicted, the 75-year-old will face a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison. His lawyer says he will fight the charges.
Well, it's pretty sure that's what a lawyer's supposed to do. Fight the charges. New York Times, for the first time, pharmaceutical distributor faces federal criminal charges over opioid crisis. Prosecutors charged Rochester Drug Corporation, RDC, as corporate entity with conspiring to distribute drugs, conspiracy to defraud the United States, and failing to file suspicious order reports. But the corporation entered an agreement under which the government will hold off on prosecuting the company on the charges as long as it pays a $20 million fine, complies with the controlled substances law, and submits to 5 years of supervision by an independent monitor. As part of the agreement, however, the company's nation's 6th largest distributor admitted in court papers that intentionally violated federal narcotics laws by shipping dangerous, highly addictive opioids to pharmacies, knowing that the prescription medicines were being sold illicitly.
Jeez. Woo! Yeah, the chat has a example. There's a town in West Virginia where 3,000 people got 21 million opioid pills. So that's just one example.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, I'm wondering how much that $20 million fine actually impacts them.
Exactly. Forbes, a serious mental health crisis is turning doctors to drugs. A new report by the British Medical Association, BMA, the trade union that represents all doctors in the UK, has highlighted a serious mental health crisis within the medical profession. Of the 4,300 UK doctors and medical students that took part in the survey, 80% are at high or very high risk of burnout, driven mostly by exhaustion. 40% are currently suffering from broader psychological or emotional condition. 1 in 3 use alcohol, drugs, self-medication, or prescribed as a way to cope with mental health conditions. These statistics clearly demonstrate that the enormous demands being placed on doctors have come at a huge price, and the current pressure and poor mental health can no longer be ignored. The workforce has been pushed to a literal breaking point, and the causes need to be addressed. The working environment has particularly severe impact, with those working the longest hours being the most vulnerable to psychological and emotional disturbances. The idea that doctors can keep delivering more and more with fewer resources, regardless of their cost to their own well-being, is now evidently negligent and dangerous. There is a tired irony in the fact that a system built to support and protect health is now failing to protect the health of its own workforce, who are at its very fabric.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised, though, just knowing people in this industry. But I'd love to hear more. Email us, ask@healthytalkshow.com.
Most people I know in the industry are not happy about it.
Yeah, I hear a lot that they're overworked. I think they're trying to make it better, but...
And they can't smoke weed. Michigan Live. It's been 5 years. Flint still doesn't trust the water. 5 years later, and many residents still use bottled water to drink, bathe, and clean. 5 years later, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions. Will anyone ever believe Flint water is safe to drink? Will the people of Flint ever trust government again? Will the crisis ever really be over? People like Reverend Monica M. Varel, a pastor at Salem Lutheran Church on the city's north side, doesn't see it coming to an end anytime soon. We are 5 years out and we're still not fixed. We are having ongoing issues, she said. For our residents, we really don't see the change. I think the broader community, there is a frustration of not seeing more activity to improve the water system. Dr. Lawrence Reynolds, a Flint resident and member of the Snyder's Flint Water Task Force, believes crimes were committed during the water crisis, but has watched as cases against 15 current and former city and state officials have moved ahead slowly, if at all. In all, 7 cases were resolved with plea deals, and they resulted with no jail time or fees, and 8 remain in district or circuit courts stuck. The cases have cost the taxpayers more than $35.9 million to prosecute and defend. The shortcomings of the prosecution have sent mixed messages over whether residents were seriously harmed or not during this crisis.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what unfolds.
Well, I will tell you what's going to unfold because Flint residents can sue the government. RT's reporting.
Like the dangerous lead in the water crisis of Flint, Michigan back in 2014. But where our politicians fail, maybe our courts and an army of lawyers can succeed. You see, in response to a lawsuit that approximately 3,000 Flint residents filed 2 years ago against the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, for its failure to use the Safe Drinking Water Act to protect them. The Hill and others are now reporting that a federal judge this week said residents of Flint, Michigan can sue the federal government over its response to the city's drinking water crisis.
They're now allowed to sue the federal government.
Yeah,
That's
very
great.
Interesting.
And now here's some guy who did some research. RT's reporting on The Victory Explained.
I mean, it's sad that, 5-6 years later, they still don't have clean drinking water. So this ruling by the judge, what's been the reaction to that ruling?
I mean, I think the reaction has been very positive, right? And it is a huge victory if they can land lawsuits that actually are sought all the way through, right, with settlements and sort of action plans behind them. So it's only a victory as far as the cases themselves can go. The reaction online has been a lot of joy and excitement for the potential that people can now sue the government because, again, this was an intentional sort of harm done to people in order to save money, right? Little Miss Flint, who has sort of been the face of Flint, Michigan over the past 5 years, she was online reminding people that the U.S. government had donated money to France to repair the Notre Dame Cathedral before they had allocated funds to repair the Flint, Michigan water system. And so she's been really out here as the face of it.
Damn.
There's also been politicians and celebrities and tons of local residents who have been online saying how excited they are about this. However, there's still sort of a shaky feeling. Can this set precedent for other communities where there's lead poisoning and water poisoning? We know that in the Navajo communities on their reservations, they've been dealing with lead poisoning in their water for several decades now. In Baltimore, Detroit, South Los Angeles, really in these working class, poor, and black communities, we've seen this same problem.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Money over people.
In Flint, we know that they chose to change their water service to the Flint River because it was cheaper. They knew it was a cheaper alternative, and they knew that the water was contaminated. So that means that in this instance, they put capital over human lives, right? So this is the same thing we see when it comes to clean air for people to breathe and pollutants, from waste management to water sources, right? So it really makes us have to question the overall argument of why should people have to sue and fight for clean water, right? Something that the earth provides us for free. It even connects to struggles like Standing Rock, where we had private corporations who are now installing pipelines that would burst and contaminate water, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the conclusion.
Case when you see the governments of not only the state government of Michigan, but also the city governments, they were all culpable in the Flint water crisis. And then when the EPA kind of sits on their hands for 6-7 months.
I mean, and then it goes all the way up to the highest seat when Barack Obama comes and drinks a bottled water in Flint and claims it's clean when it's not, right? And we know that Nestle and private corporations provided water, bottles water, but then they sort of stopped providing water for Flint, right? And they've been showering and cooking with bottled water for 5 years. Someone has to be held accountable.
Most definitely, and that's a travesty to hear that for 5 years this is still not fixed. Devin Springer, thank you so much for coming on. Always a pleasure having you on.
CBS Evening News, Obama drinks the water.
Can I get some water?
Before a crowd of 1,000.
I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
President Obama took a sip of Flint's filtered tap water, assuring the people there that he cares.
I've got your back.
Ooh, really? Really?
He was almost wincing as he took that big sip.
Not too long ago, I received a letter.
The president singled out 8-year-old Mari Copin.
The same little girl from the RT report who's pissed off about the Notre Dame thing. And
hey, at least someone cares.
Mr. President.
She wrote him a letter in March.
I don't remember why I left that in there. The lawsuits against the federal government charged that the EPA negligently responded to the water crisis. According to the court ruling, the judge didn't rule on the EPA's negligence, writing the EPA was well aware the Flint River was highly corrosive and posed a significant danger of lead leaching into residents' home. So, the negligent part, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting because what has the EPA been focusing on? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be a long segment. Hopefully not too long. CGTN. Japanese government compensates forced sterilization victims.
Japan's parliament enacted legislation to provide redress, including over $28,000 compensation for each victim. The law prevented the birth of, quote, inferior descendants, and it remained in effect until 1996. Many of the victims of Japan's so-called eugenics protection law were disabled. Others suffered from mental illness, leprosy, or simply had behavioral problems.
As the government which had been implementing the past law, I offer sincere remorse and heartfelt apologies. The government sincerely regrets it and apologizes to the victims.
What that report didn't clearly say.
Also, 28,000, that seemed very low,
Yes.
given what happened.
The apology and the redress of the law followed a series of lawsuits by victims who came forward recently after breaking decades of silence, Time was reporting. That prompted lawmakers from both ruling and opposition parties to draft a compensation package to make amends for the victims. The plaintiffs are seeking about 30 million yen each, $268,000, in growing legal actions that are spreading around the country, saying the government's implementation of the law violated the victims' right to self-determination, reproductive health, and equality. They say the government redress measures are too small for their suffering. In addition to the forced sterilizations, more than 8,000 others were sterilized with consent, though likely under pressure, while nearly 60,000 women had abortions because of hereditary illnesses, according to Japan Federation and bar associations. Among them were 10,000 leprosy patients. Who've been. That's interesting. I had no idea that Japan was into forced sterilization. But
wait, so the video conversion was wrong? Since your 268,000 was correct. That was weird. How they had that.
I don't know which one's right.
Well, I just asked Google, and it's 268.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the video was wrong?
Yeah.
How was the video was wrong? It's from a Japanese news source.
But yeah, that was really shocking, actually. I had no idea this occurred.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, too, when you're thinking about ethics, this relates back to CRISPR and...
Ethics in science.
Yeah.
Ethics in science.
I think some people in the chat wanted to talk about that, so we'll have a follow-up. If you have input, askahealthytalkshow.com.
Yep. Forbes, glyphosate. Glyphosate. The multiplicity of truth and the fallibility of science. If science is our holy grail to truth, what happens when science finds conflicting truths? And who gets to decide which truth is true? Over the past several years, scientists at the World Health Organization and University of Washington, among others, have singled out a popular herbicide found in Roundup weed killer as likely contributing to cancer. In the exact words of the WHO, glyphosate, right? Glyphosate was found to be probably carcinogenic to humans. University of Washington researchers went a step further this past February, concluding in a published report, glyphosate increased risk of lymphoma by 41%. As reported by NPR, Bayer-owned Monsanto insists the product is safe, and some scientists agree. Dr. Steven Salzberg is one of them. He's distinguished biomedical engineer professor at Johns Hopkins, as well as Forbes contributor. In a February article, he referred to a 2017 study in the Journal of National Cancer Institute. It found that no association was apparent between glyphosate and solid tumors or lymphoid malignancies overall. I learned that from jury duty, including NHL. Other studies, too, conducted by reputable scientists and published in distinguished journals, have come out on Monsanto's side. So who's right? I have no idea.
This ties in just to the broader problem of doing science and, trying to interpret this data. Because sometimes when you set up these experiments, maybe you don't have all the factors accounted for, so then you don't really have the true picture. Or other studies, so we kind of joked at that science conference even how these studies are done in mice. Yes. So you might have short-term studies done in some other species. The dosaging could be different. I mean, there's so many different confounding factors. So, and then there's also the bias factor that we don't always talk about.
Who's funding what, for what purpose. And everyone gets funding for climate change or to prove anthropomorphic climate change, but nobody gets funding to disprove it.
Yeah, so that's another issue that we have with science is trying to get funding. Funding is very hard to get, especially every year it gets harder, I think. It doesn't matter who's the president. Just they seem to cut funding everybody. So it's hard.
And you have to go a specific direction.
Yeah, so you have to propagate the certain narrative usually. Or unless you're being paid for by some company. But again, you yourself also have bias.
We all do.
Yeah, and even just how you set up the experiment. So.
Lobbyist claims Monsanto's Roundup is safe to drink.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually. But not really, but...
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Okay, so you...
No, but I know
so it's dangerous, right?
No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous.
Fairly regularly? But they don't fail all the time?
Just humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot. Interview me about golden rice. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, then it's finished. Then the interview is finished.
Dang.
That's a good way to solve things.
Yeah. You're a complete jerk.
Wow.
It was a pretty jerk move on the interviewer's part. It was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, but why did he say he was going to drink it?
Yeah, why? Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Here we go. ABC World News, quarantine orders issued at UCLA.
Breaking news in the measles outbreak spreading across this country, the worst in 25 years. And tonight, hundreds of students and faculty at 2 major universities in Los Angeles are under quarantine.
Tonight, that measles scare racing through 2 of the biggest university systems in the country. Many dozens possibly exposed to what is considered one of the world's most contagious viruses.
We have 5 cases, 4 of which are linked as an outbreak that stemmed from a traveler who was unvaccinated.
That traveler coming in from abroad, apparently going through Los Angeles Airport, one of the busiest in the world, on April 1st, and then going on to UCLA with its 45,000 students to the psychology department on 3 days in early April. Over 300 students and faculty now under quarantine at the 2 universities with no access to public areas or dorms.
If they are not immune to measles, then they must be kept away from others in order to not have that unintentional spread of measles should they come in contact with others who may not be as immune as well.
Some of those students and faculty will be able to quickly produce their medical records, likely those younger students, but some of the older faculty may have a harder time finding them, and they could stay in quarantine for up to 2 more weeks. Tom.
Jeez.
Okay, so we're touching on the measles a little bit because we're not really sure why so many people are losing their crap and attacking those who are anti-vaccine and say that they're the cause of this. So we want to do some research and look some things up.
Also, I have to say that the news anchor too, he's just super dramatic in the way he talks. Yes. You're already on edge and fearful.
Yep. Someone from our chat asked us last night, why is everyone so scared? And are the measles going to kill me? And probably not.
Probably not.
If I was a gambling person.
And then our other point is, so we went over some studies a couple episodes back about why people weren't getting vaccinated, and they cited access. That they either couldn't make an appointment, there weren't any openings, or the doctor's office wasn't open. So it seems like there are other factors. And then in this case that we just listened to, they said that they were traveling abroad.
Yeah.
So that was another interesting key point. So it doesn't seem like it's anti-vaxxers.
Exactly.
But maybe other factors.
And then here's a mumps report at an ICE facility from earlier this year, February 2019, CBS.
7 cases of the mumps have been reported at a U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement facility in Houston. The Houston Health Department says all 7 of the infected detainees are adults. They had all been detained during their infectious period. They were reportedly moved into an isolated area inside of the facility to prevent spreading the virus further. The mumps is preventable with 2 doses of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Health officials say there is no evidence to show that the disease was transferred to anyone outside of the ICE facility.
Well,
hopefully.
People from the outside bringing it in.
Yeah.
The anti-vaccine community did not create the measles. I don't understand this. Where else do we have on this?
We have our patient zeros.
We have 2 patient zeros.
Oops.
So let's see. Where is my first patient zero? This was February 6, 2019. Patient 0 measles outbreak is a foreigner, which is a common way outbreaks start. Washington State epidemiologist Dr. Skate Lindquist said that patient 0 in the ongoing outbreak was someone who was visiting the U.S. from outside the country. The revelation that an ongoing measles outbreak is tied to a foreign individual does not come as a surprise to those who have studied the disease. Few further details have been released about the specific individual, including his or her age or what country the person has traveled from before arriving in Washington. Lindquist said that health officials have a good sense of who was the first case. A spokesperson for the Washington State Department of Health confirmed to ABC News that the strain of Washington's outbreak matches a strain that is involved in an ongoing outbreak in Eastern Europe. But now they're changing who patient 0 is because they just want to confuse us even more, everybody. And now, good morning, America. Patient 0 identified in Michigan.
This morning, health officials in Michigan say they've found their patient 0. The man who they say spread the measles virus to dozens of people. According to the Washington Post, health officials say the unidentified man came to the U.S. from Israel last fall, contracting measles sometime during his stay in New York. Then last month, he drove from New York to Michigan. experiencing symptoms along the way. He saw a doctor who initially misdiagnosed him with bronchitis. Within 2 weeks, he'd infected 39 people in the Detroit area before officials tracked him down. The head of Oakland County's emergency services telling the Washington Post he put his head down and was very emotional. I could tell from the look on his face that he was devastated. He was doing the math in his head, counting all the people he'd been in contact with.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Being a carrier for something and not knowing it.
Although now I have a question. So was he in contact with a bunch of Orthodox Jews that maybe aren't as vaccinated? Is that why so many people got it?
Well, that's what we reported on a few weeks ago. Kaiser Health News reported on that. The Orthodox Jew community was...
And they said he'd been to Israel and New York. It was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So...
And before we get into the numbers of what's going on here, let's look at ABC News, measles outbreak in 13 states.
Measles. Tonight
from 2014.
The CDC warns it's back and it's spreading. Even doctors don't recognize it.
Most residents who are training have never seen measles.
129 cases so far this year, 58 of them here in California. Last year at this time, just 4. The CDC saying tonight it's the highest number of cases since 1996. Behind the outbreak, many unvaccinated travelers bringing measles back after trips to the Philippines, where there's an outbreak, and an increasing number of parents who won't vaccinate their children or choose to delay vaccines past the recommended ages.
We're up to 4.5% of our children at kindergarten age who've not had all their vaccines.
That's a lot of kids. Hillary Chambers, with a baby exposed to measles, has something to say to parents who refuse to vaccinate.
That's not fair. It's like you're relying on everybody else to do it for you.
For many people,
what?
Yeah,
I don't get her point.
I was kind of unclear. I think we needed more background.
Pediatricians, it's a hot button issue.
Isn't it a parent's right to vaccinate their child?
Here we go.
Or not vaccinate their child?
Would you send your teen out to drive a car without wearing a seatbelt?
That's the clip. That was from 2014.
I mean,
during the last measles scare.
They choose not to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, and measles by the numbers. Yep, April 26th. We are at the highest, but 2014 was 667.
Yeah.
Is it that? Are we running? Are we scared yet? No, we're not. Let's look at that rare super fungus, that deadly super fungus, Candida auris. How many people have that infected? But they don't really report that one too well. So let's see. Updated March 31st. So not tracking it quite as closely. 613 cases total.
Yeah. Whew. But no one's panicking.
That's a rare super fungus, and this is going to kill us all. Measles will kill everybody, and we're all going to die. Get vaccinated ASAP, please.
Yeah.
But we're not anti-vaccine. Yeah. That's what's funny. We're really not. We just don't like attacking people. Well, I'm vaccinated. I'm cool. It's all good. I'm not going to go blast people for not being vaccinated.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to bring up some stats about how the whole world is having a measles outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes sense that
World Health Organization.
If you're traveling, then you probably want to get the shot. And same with people entering our country.
Yes.
Should, vaccinate, maybe quarantine if they're...
Well, that brings up an interesting point. Because some people are thinking that it's all foreigners coming into this country. That's what's causing these outbreaks. Some people think that.
And it could be. So we're asking why.
But we're just gonna blame.
We're
just gonna blame not people who don't vaccinate. That's just the easy. Let's just blame them.
Yeah,
they're an easy target. Let's just blame them. Jenny McCarthy. Let's blame her.
Yeah, and we really haven't seen evidence yet to back it. And if anyone has any, ask at healthytalkshow.com.
Yeah, please send it on over.
To look at it.
Yeah, or Healthy Talk Show. Drop the W on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, because people just keep claiming this. But
yeah, I hear people talk, but I can't find anything. World Health Organization, measles. While measles deaths have decreased by 84% worldwide in recent years, from 550,000 deaths in 2000 to 89,000 in 2016, measles is still very common in many developing countries, particularly in parts of Africa and Asia. An estimated 7 million people were affected by measles in 2016. The overwhelming majority, more than 95% of measles deaths, occur in countries with low per capita incomes and weak health infrastructures. Many countries are in the midst of a sizable measles outbreak, with all regions of the world experiencing sustainable raises in cases. Current outbreaks include Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Madagascar, Myanmar, Philippines, Sudan, Thailand, Ukraine, causing many deaths, mostly among young children. Over recent months, spikes in cases and numbers also occurred in countries in high overall vaccination coverage, including the United States of America, as well as Israel, Thailand, and Tunisia, as disease has spread fast among clusters of unvaccinated people. That's what the World Health Organization says.
Oh, another stat. So we talk a lot about herd immunity, and I don't know, because if you look up, people generally say that to contain measles, you need about 90 to 95% for herd immunity. And right away, the graphs, if the population drops below 95%, it's just red, panic. So they keep spreading this message of fear. And, you know, there might be some, you know, leeway, and we're not at the panic stage yet, is what I'm trying to say.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep filling the airways with all this fear mongering and not focus on real issues.
Right. And instead of actually trying to find the cause, if it's coming in from all these foreigners, then we need to find an actual solution.
Exactly. I have no idea what that is.
I'm not sure either. I mean, definitely starting with just you personally, if you're going to travel, make sure you're up to date on your shots.
Mm-hmm.
You know, consult your doctor.
Yeah.
But I would also say it sounds like they're trying to just have an excuse for censorship.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what it is. If you look at it, there's lots of censorship against the anti-vaccine crowds. All of these crowdfunding Kickstarter, Indiegogo, they're all removing them. They're all saying we are taking a firm stance against that stuff. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And if you look at those anti-vax websites, I don't know that anybody listens to them. They're all really crazy and really out there. But it's
the chat.
Weird.
I mean, from having no reported cases to what we have now. Well, look again. Reported cases. 2011, 220. Okay. 2013, 187. 2014, 667. It's not something that was ever gone.
Yeah.
It's just, it lingers. I don't know. I'm not afraid.
I agree with the chat. I'm also more scared of the Candida auris fungus.
Yes, the rare deadly super fungus
Yeah.
that there is no vaccination available for.
That's scary.
What do we think? Thanks for tuning in. If you found value and useful information in the show, please support the show by emailing us at askhealthytalkshow.com, leaving us a voicemail 509-878-3229, or supporting us financially over at healthytalkshow.com/support. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again. Love and light.
Love and light.